Guess what is outperforming today? Small caps. Guess who is not outperforming today? Tesla stock, down about 3%. Here in this video, I will break down all of your breaking news that you need to know on the day today. And there is a couple different important things that you need to know. And yes, we do have good news as well. It's not all bad. It may seem like it, but it's not all bad. If you could respond to me, I would ask, would you like the good or the bad news first? But since you can't, we'll start with the bad news. And there's really three different pieces here that could be seen, at least subjectively, as bad news for Tesla. First off, you have the NHTSA that has asked Tesla how much mileage consumers are racking up using its driver assistance system, and how many times drivers have been warned to put their hands on the wheel before and after the company's December recall. So this autopilot FSD probe is seen as escalating today, and that's not exactly great. I personally think we're past the point of no return for Tesla as long as there's nothing super bad that starts happening with a lot of Teslas on FSD, then I don't think there's any kind of restrictions coming, but that's not going to stop Wall Street from getting a little fearful about that as a possibility. The second piece of bad news today for Tesla is really subjective, but I can see why the markets are taking it as bad news today. That is Apple, that is reportedly in talks with Rivian about a possible partnership, according to the DigiTimes. But they did not specify what the partnership would actually be for. And I hope this is pretty straightforward to all of you guys why the markets might see this as bad news, but if you're a little confused, well, here you go. Simply competition. A company like Apple has a lot of resources. We don't know what kind of partnership this could be. We don't know if Apple is looking at buying Rivian or partnering with Rivian to create Apple EVs still, if that's something they're dabbling with or want to dabble with. There's a lot of uncertainties here, but long story short, competition domestically. There's not a lot of that. And if there were to be someone that could really bring some competition, that would not be great. Especially if Apple were to build a factory or something to help produce Rivians or Apple cars, whatever it is. That's not great. Apple has a lot of cash that could do a lot of investing. Last but not least, the third piece of bad news today is somewhat subjective yet again. I don't really think it's bad news, but some people do. Weekly insurance registration numbers just came out for the week of April 29th through May 5th in China, and this number came in at 10,900. Now, why I think this is good news, because last year the number was 5,900, so you're 5,000 deliveries higher in 2024 than you were in this same week in 2023, and the week in 2022 you came in at 3,200. So that's some pretty impressive year-over-year growth. But here you see the headliners that are causing the algorithms to react to this news are like this, as followed. Tesla shares are trading lower after the company's April sales of China-made vehicles reportedly fell 18% year over year. And that is, of course, if you're looking at the entirety of the month of April. So I think last week's insurance registration numbers were actually pretty dang good, almost 100% higher year over year compared to the same week last year. But if you look at April of 2024 compared to April of 2023, it's 18% lower. So take that for what you will. It's just 1 month of data, and Elon Musk believes Tesla's year-over-year deliveries for 2024 are going to be higher than 2023. So this is your bulk of bad news specifically for Tesla stock today. But you did have some bad Fed talk from Kashkari today. Kashkari said here, the most likely scenario is we stay put for an extended period on rates. So rate cuts not coming anytime soon, in his opinion. Fed Kashkari says, in March, I jotted down 2 rate cuts for this year. It is possible that that will stay at 2 or go to 1 or 0 rate cuts for the June SEP. He goes on to say that if inflation becomes embedded, we may hike if needed. And then finally, he says he would need to see multiple readings on inflation to be confident to cut rates. It is also worth mentioning Fed Kashkari is probably the most hawkish Fed official by far as of right now. Nobody else really talks about needing to raise rates again, and Fed Kashkari, he said just that today. Here you can see the small caps, the Russell 2000, IWM is the ticker symbol for the ETF that tracks the Russell. You're up 0.76% today. Small caps are outperforming. So I don't think this Kashkari news really was seen as anything new because Kashkari has been such a bear, but it definitely did not help Tesla stock. That is probably the most interest rate sensitive stock on the markets, period. Now with the bad news out the way, let's get into some of your good news today. Despite Tesla being down about 3%, there is some good news. Elon Musk shared this video from Stephen Mark Ryan, where essentially this individual runs Altimeter Capital. He's very bullish on Tesla's FSD. This video is about 36 minutes long, so I'm not going to give you a full summary. But Elon Musk says accurate analysis. Only about 1 out of 10,000 of distance driven is useful for training. So very, very little of the actual driving is useful for training. Elon says the limiting factor for FSD progress was AI training compute, but now it is validation as the interventions are so rare. So Tesla really only gets useful training data when there is a problem, when there is an intervention, in which this is not really something I thought about too much in the past in terms of as the software improves, it's going to be harder and harder to train because you really only improve when you make a mistake, when FSD makes a mistake. And that's why it is vitally important to get as many miles driven as possible as quickly as humanly possible. Still, overall, I would say this is good news, especially Elon Musk continuing to provide clarity to investors. Next up, you have Elon Musk that posted this picture of the Argentinian president and himself and said, "Great meeting with President J. Milei." And then Elon Musk shared his own picture and says, quote, "I recommend investing in Argentina." This is Elon Musk's way of basically telling you Tesla's about to invest in Argentina. But for what reason? You might be wondering. Well, odds are it has something to do with total reserves of lithium. The darker the highlighted country, the more lithium reserves the country has. And you can see down here, Argentina is the second most lithium-rich country in the world. And given Elon Musk and the Argentina president tend to share common like-minded interests, I would be willing to bet the farm that this investment in Argentina is going to have something to do with lithium, likely mining lithium, refining lithium, creating batteries, and potentially megapacks. I would be surprised if we have a gigafactory in Argentina, but definitely some large-scale battery factory is what I would expect. Now, some people are going to say this is bad news because that means Tesla is going to be spending more money. But I think a lot of people fail to realize if Tesla wants to get to selling 20 million vehicles a year, or however high that they can ultimately push that, they need a lot of lithium, they need a lot of batteries, especially for megapacks. To continue to scale that business, you have to continue to invest. And also worth mentioning that it takes many years to bring a lithium mine to operation. So just starting this today, you likely won't have any lithium coming out of Argentina, at least in any Tesla mine, for a long time. These are critical investments for the future of Tesla, and really for the world's sustainable energy goals. Also worth mentioning is that Argentina is not so much a developed country. So the US dollar goes a long way in Argentina compared to even what it does in, let's say, China, India, or other countries. So in other words, you get a lot more bang for your buck. In some kind of analogy terms, it would be like going to buy this jacket, let's say, at Adidas, or this is Adidas, for $100. Instead, you find the same jacket at Goodwill for $5. Your money goes a lot further at Goodwill. That's Argentina. The Adidas store would be like the US or China. So it does make a lot of fundamental sense to get something going in Argentina as soon as possible. And I would consider this hugely positive news. Emphasis on hugely. Thailand reported 224 Tesla sales and 0.6% market share for the month of April. China reported 62,167 wholesale sales for Giga Shanghai in April. And finally, the UK reported 1,352 Tesla sales and 1% market share for April. It now appears that Costco has taken delivery of a Tesla Semi. You now have Pepsi, Walmart, and Costco that have now taken delivery of at least one Tesla Semi, with Pepsi already having 36 of them. Tesla has just launched 2 new options for the Foundation Series Cybertruck, and you have a tactical gray interior and new 20-inch core wheel design with an aero cover. Both options are now available for all new Foundation Series orders. Lucid reported earnings last night with an EPS that came in at negative 30 cents per share versus negative 25 cents as expected. Revenue missed by about 10 million, and Lucid's net loss is $684 million. That's bad. They only have $2.17 billion in cash currently on their books. That's down 13% quarter over quarter. That means that Lucid lost about $347,000 per EV they delivered in Q1 2024. And I think Lucid's CEO Peter Rawlinson said on the earnings call, I think he said it the best. Let's just be honest. He says, I believe there are 2 factors that set Lucid apart: our superior in-house technology, throw that out the window, and the partnership with the PIF, the Saudi Public Investment Fund. Let me tell you right now, if Lucid ever survives to see the light of day and be a prosperous company, it is because of the Saudis. I mean, on top of their outright sugar daddy status with the Saudis, 30% of Lucid's total sales in Q1 came from the Saudi government. Kia is teasing its upcoming all-electric EV3 in production form, full unveil on May 23rd. It's expected to cost under $40,000 in the US. Self-driving startup Wave co-founder and CEO Alex Kendall says Tesla's taking after him when it comes to an end-to-end approach to autonomous driving. He says, quote, "It's nice for them to join the club," he said. Mr. Beast has purchased 25 brand new Tesla Model 3s and a Cybertruck for his 26th birthday and is giving them all away. The winners will be announced in 7 days. In other news today, you do have AI stocks that are largely not doing that well, especially Nvidia, which is down over 1% today. That is mainly because Stan Druckenmiller cuts his stake in Nvidia and says AI is overhyped in the short term. This is the king who literally called the AI boom before anyone else, so his words indeed matter. Tesla is currently running about 4,000 different ads with Google. Global inventories today remain largely unchanged. The Model Y at about 7,000. Model 3 at about 2,600, the Model X at about 2,500, and the Model S at about 1,300. Google Trends data for full self-driving is sitting here at 26. Now that the FSD free trial is pretty much over with, I'm expecting to get some finer data that comes out. What I mean by that is if we stay in the 20s, pop up to the 30s, that's a really good sign from here. The take rate is probably better now than it was before. Maybe there's more continued search trend activity into Tesla's full self-driving. If you fall back down to where you were previously in between 10 and 20 for your trend data, that's not going to be a fantastic sign. We can't draw much of a conclusion off of that if that happens. but as long as we stay in the high 20s and the 30s, that's a very good sign. Google Trends data for the Tesla lineup is broadly showing an acceleration, not for the Model 3, but for other Tesla models, specifically the Cybertruck going from 58 to 60. You can see the Model Y going from 27 to 28, the Model 3 going from 24 down to 23, the Model S staying at 11, and the Model X as well staying unchanged at 9. It's also important to remember that this kind of trend activity in Google is not common in Q2, it's more common in Q3 and Q4, which tend to be car companies, as well as Tesla's, best quarters. So this is a pretty good sign that Q2 is probably going to be pretty good. Option activity today in Tesla stock from big money is kind of weird. So you're not seeing much activity at all. Only 68 orders totaling $12.05 million. Very low dollar amount of option activity today. Just not a whole lot going on in Tesla stock from big money. But this positive order value at 28% is bad. So basically only 28% of $12 million were positive trades. That would be buying calls or selling puts. So there's a lot of put buyers today and call sellers today. Surprisingly, short sellers are not shorting a lot of stock today as well. You have cost to borrow fees that are only at about half of 1%, and it actually looks like about 700,000 shares may actually be getting covered today. You do have 3.85% short interest of free float, $19.7 billion currently in short positions, with 106.6 million shares that are currently sold short. Over on StockTwits, I like to look at StockTwits because it really measures your retail investor sentiment around a particular stock. Hedge funds, institutions, big money, they're not getting on StockTwits and writing posts or voting on sentiment or anything of that nature. So sentiment today for Tesla is 56. That is bullish. Yesterday it was 55. So even though Tesla is down almost 3% today, sentiment is more bullish today than it was yesterday. Message volume today is low at 44. Yesterday it was at 43. So message volume is actually picking up a little bit today as well. And the participation ratio is going higher as well. Yesterday it was at 54 and today it is at 55. 10-year treasury yields are also declining about 5.5 basis points. So if we didn't have this bad news today for Tesla, again, some of this is subjective bad news, well, Tesla stock would probably be doing pretty well. Just like you see today with small caps really outperforming. The percent of stocks today above their 50-day moving average is up to 55.02%. 2.5% of stocks out there on the markets are breaking above their 50-day moving average today. That's pretty good. I'm not going to complain with that. With this 5.5 basis point drop in 10-year treasuries, you are seeing the odds of a July rate cut starting to rise as well. Yesterday, there was a 29.2% chance the first cut from the Fed will be July 31st. Today, that is at 31.9%. The odds of a continued pause fell from 68.6% yesterday to 64.5% today. So definitely seeing the markets getting a little bit more optimistic for July 31st being the first cut from the Fed. That is also my expectation. I do think July 31st will be the first cut from the Fed, and then we'll probably get another cut September 18th, which is currently the first meeting the markets are expecting a cut. So that'll be 2 cuts by September and likely another cut in December. If not, depending on what the data does, you might get a cut November 7th as well. You could be looking at 3 or 4 cuts this year if the data starts to show a further weakening in the economy or the labor market, and or inflation starts to fall as Jerome Powell expects in the second half of this year. Now, on a technical basis for Tesla, today, I mean, look at it. It's beautiful. You're holding up support at this trend line here around 180. The day is not finished yet. Tesla stock is at $179.51 per share. You're technically under this trend line just a little bit, but we'll have to see where the stock closes the trading day. I imagine it's probably going to close above this trend line, but plus or minus 50 cents. It's not going to make a big deal at all. So you are definitely seeing some support coming in here at this trend line, and that's why I like to keep the charts how they are, because the technicals tend to follow through very well over time. If indeed the markets do fall and we head into larger downside, you want to watch that 50-day moving average to the downside that's sitting at $173.63 per share as hopefully a level of support. That's not my expectation. That's not my base case. I do think Tesla stock could actually, rally quite a bit throughout the rest of this week, but the next level of resistance is around 188. If you look at the RSI is at 54.48, so you're pretty neutral for relative strength. And the MACD line is positive, almost 3. The signal line, this blue line, just went positive as well, now positive 0.13. That's a pretty good sign as well. Momentum is definitely starting to shift into the bulls' favor. Also worth mentioning before we wrap up this video, you will have Rivian, Arista, Upstart, Win, Lyft, Oxy, Twilio, Confluent, Toast, and Asher Labs reporting earnings today in after hours. I do have a trade on Rivian, Arista, and Win for earnings today in after hours. If you guys would like to see those trades that I made and future trades that I do make and other members make as well that post their trades, check out that link down below in the description of this video. But that is it. That is everything you need to know so far here on the day today if you are a Tesla stock investor or really just own stocks in general. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about all of this information. Specifically, what's the deal with Rivian and Apple? Rivian reports earnings today in after hours. We may or may not get new details on this, but what do you think is going on? Is Apple trying to partner with Rivian to maybe build a factory to co-produce vehicles? Is Apple trying to outright buy Rivian? What's going on? Give me your take down below in the comment section. In the meantime, hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you made it to the end of this video and you have not done so already. Most importantly though, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your families today. It is a beautiful day, at least so far here in Michigan, and I will see you in the next one.